Okay, so in this video, we are going to connect to a database. You see this function include. In PHP, this will link us to another file. File is in the underscore includes folder and it's called connect.php. So let's go to the folder and look at that file. I'm going to open it up and you see that it is blank. So let's create a PHP tag. So this is an opening tag. I'm not going to close it for now, but I'm going to declare a variable called dbHost equal to localhost. Now this will be the same even if you move this to a live server because it's local relative to where your files are. Next we have a dbuser and it's equal to root. This is the username of your phpMyAdmin. By default it's set to root. If you have a different username for your phpMyAdmin, you have to use that name. Also, the password by default is set to blank. You may have already set a different password for your phpMyAdmin. If so, you will have to use that password. So we have another variable and it's called dbName and it's the name of the database, but we don't have one yet. So let's go to phpMyAdmin and click database. And right here where it says create database, we have to type the name. Let's type fast food and click create. So now that we have our database created, let's go back to our code and in the connect.php file, let's add the name to our database name, dbName, and then down below, let's create a connection variable, set that equal to a built-in PHP function called mysql_connect. So we need to get the database host, the database user, the database password, and the database name. Okay. So now let's test to see if there is a connection. Okay, so what I'm going to do is say if connection, then what I want to do is echo good, and if else echo bad. In PHP, the way we generate HTML or content on the web page is to echo it. So that's what we're doing. But we can also put HTML in our echo. So I'm going to give these paragraph tags just to demonstrate. And then I'm going to go and in the CSS, I'm going to give the paragraph an color of red, and just to be able to see it, we'll give it a position top left of 20%. So now let's go back to the browser and see if we have the connection. So we see we have a red paragraph tag and it says good, so we must have our connection. So let's go back to the connect.php and add an X in front of our database name. So now what we should see is a red paragraph that says bad. When I refresh, and there it says bad. Let's right click and look at view source. Okay, what we have here, we got our red paragraph, but we got this warning. It says unknown database fast food X. And that is exactly what we were expecting because we changed the name of our database in our code, but we did not change the name of our database in the phpMyAdmin. So let's go back to the code and fix that. Let's take that X off, save it again, and refresh. And now that warning went away and we see our paragraph with good in it again. So we must be connected to the database and our code is good. So right now what I want to do is replace all this with some other code. It's a built-in function. So what this condition is saying is that if there is an error, mysqli_connect_error no number, then what we want to do is die. It just ends the whole program, but it also sends this message, database connection failed, and then we're going to add to that the actual error so that we can see it. So let's create an error to see what this would look like. I'm going to put an X in front of database name. Okay, so let's save that and see what happens. It says undefined variable database name. Well, wait a minute. let's look. Okay, so what we have is saying that this is not defined. And that's because we put an X in front of database name. So that's a way to be able to spot your errors. Okay, so now let's fix our errors, and then we can close this file down and not have to use it anymore unless we change our password or our root, our username, or our database name. So I'm going to close the connect file down. Now, since we are connected to the database with our connect.php, let's go to phpMyAdmin and create a table. Okay, so in the fast food database, let's create a table by giving it a name. Let's call it food. And then we need to set the number of fields. Let's go with 6. We can always add more later. So the first thing we need to do is give the table an ID. It's an integer. We're going to accept 11 characters. That's a big number. Set its key to primary key. Click OK. And it's got to be auto-incremented. So the next one is going to be carbs. That's also going to be an integer. Now we only need 5 values. So this number cannot be larger than 99,000, which is plenty big enough for carbs because, we don't eat that much. On the other hand, the integer can be up to 11 characters. That's like 100 billion. Now that's larger than what we really need. The more you use, the more memory space you take up. But it's not that much of a deal, so we're just going to leave the ID to 11, and everything else we'll just set it to 5, and that's plenty large enough. So let's give fat, and that's an integer, 5. Protein, again an integer with 5 characters. And then we need cholesterol, and that's going to be an integer of 5. I need one more. I need sodium. So we can add more later. And again, that's going to be an integer of 5. Okay, so I need to save this. Okay, so I have my table, but it has no records in it. See, if I go to browse, no records. Since we are now connected to our database, we can start adding records, but we're going to do that with PHP. So in other words, we're going to add it with this form. We need to change some of this. We got the carbs, fat, protein, sodium, but we need to add cholesterol and get rid of that potassium. So in the next video, we're going to go inside of this PHP tag underneath our connect. We're going to start adding the functionality with PHP that will allow that form to submit to the database information. So you'll see what we're doing in the next movie. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something, and I hope you like this video. If you do, please share this video. And if you subscribe to my channel, then you'll get a notification for every time I make other videos. So please subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.